So I want to talk a little bit today about my profession and the fact that I think it's not something that should be tied to an individual. Design as a word often means both a discipline and an activity, and I think I want to talk about it in the context of the activity today. I work for Frog. This is kind of our tagline, but it's also something I believe. It was given to me by my father. He's a designer, and believe it or not, he is actually really cool. He was a designer when the profession was quite young. He's taught me very early about the profession. I kind of grew up around it. I grew up in a design studio, visiting him at work in New York City, crawling around mock-ups of Lear jets and Freightliner trucks. I can remember seeing the original Polaroid 2 camera, the one most of the people who grew up in the 80s, the big boxy flip-up one. I can remember seeing the drawings of that on his drawing board. That was kind of my life. I knew my whole life I wanted to be a designer. I watched my father love the things he made, and I wanted to be a part of that. And part of his lesson to me was that anything we design must have value and meaning. For products and services to be successful, they need to have value and meaning. Value being what you're willing to pay for it. Obviously, if it has no value, it's not going to be successful as a product. And meaning that it has to connect to you in some personal way, right? Great products aren't just something you pay money for. You actually form a connection to it. It means something to you. Which is why I remember my father canceling his subscription to ID Magazine when I was actually in design school. And for those of you who don't know, ID Magazine was an industrial designer magazine. It was the magazine that represented the discipline that I was stepping into, that my father had built a career around. And in the mid-90s, they celebrated the Castor. They gave it a design award and put it on the front page of their magazine. And frankly, by the mid-90s, I'm not sure that this is a product that was really pushing the boundaries of either meaning or value for people. And so I can remember my dad literally berating the guy on the phone, saying, show me the next product that's changing someone's life. Show me the next prosthetic limb that's having real impact on someone. And he canceled his subscription. And I guess then it makes me wonder, is it any surprise that a magazine that so misrepresents the sort of underlying value proposition of the profession should go under? In fact, I'm not sure it's so devastating. But it's also shocking. It's shocking to me anyway that in this day and age that a magazine representing the profession of design should go under at the exact moment when design is becoming so prevalent, so recognized as a fundamental driver of value for people, for society, for businesses. How is it possible that one of the founding magazines that represents that profession goes under? I think it starts by having us ask a little bit of a question about what constitutes design. I think most people, if they hear the word designer, have some sort of a stereotypical image in their head about what that means. Black t-shirt, sketchbook, living in a coffee shop, you're going to change the world, sort of dark, heavy, thick glasses. And sadly, that stereotype positions the designer as kind of this lone hero, this person who is they're going to change the world, and they're going to do it alone. And I think that stereotype was emboldened and sort of embodied by ID Magazine. It tended to be very navel-gazing, very sort of about the profession and the singularity of what they were doing, as opposed to thinking about the profession as being maybe larger than the singular. But we love the idea of the lone hero, right? When we look at companies that are successful at creating products that have both value and meaning, Ford as a company and as a person, Apple with Steve Jobs, they love to put forth this sort of this picture, this story, this narrative of the lone hero. And the reality is Frog has one of these too. My company, this is the founder, Hartmut Tesslinger, and he's often held up. He was on the front page of, I think it was Business Week in the mid-'80s and sort of held up as a driving force in innovation in design. Funny enough, he also actually was responsible for doing the original designs of the Macintosh for Steve Jobs. But there's been actually a lot of discourse within Frog, and I think in the larger profession as of late, that this is a problem. We're miscasting this person as a singular hero, and that's wrong. Every band needs a frontman, but it's the band that makes the music, right? There's a lot of other people involved who do this. And I think I want to talk a bit about today how we open up and talk about who comes into the fold to do the act of design. It's really a shared activity. It requires a lot of different specialties, right? Got to have a big heart, got to have this sort of the technical person. Maybe this is a little dated now, but a collection of people with a variety of very special skills needs to be brought to bear on a problem. And the skills necessary are obviously related to the problem we face. So why do we fail at this, right? It seems very pedantic for me to stand up here and talk about sort of work as a group, cross-discipline, that's the way to be. It seems like an old message, but we fail at it so miserably. And I think it starts really way back at a younger age, right? This is where I went to school, Carnegie Mellon, in Pittsburgh, in the US. This is where my first job for many years at Microsoft. It's their campus. They're both world-class places, known for bringing together collective minds, right? Problem is this building holds one group of people, this building holds another group of people, this building holds another group of people. While we pull them all together, right, we don't actually get them to interact. We pull them under a brand umbrella, but we don't organize them correctly. We put them in silos. And getting to work across this is really hard, really hard. And you're not going to change this overnight, right? You're not going to go into corporate America and say, hey, this org structure you have, it just kind of gets in the way. People are disincented from working with each other. Can you just fix that? It's not going to happen. It can't start just from tops down, and it can't just begin from the bottoms up. It's kind of both directions for fixing this. And when we don't fix it, we end up focusing on the differences between us because we're incented to do so, right? We build stereotypes of the people we work with, and we sort of point fingers at each other, make fun of each other, talk about the ways in which people get in the way of us doing what if we were just left to do ourselves, we could do the right thing. And this isn't really productive, right? This is not how great things happen when people in an organization talk about each other this way. We're focused on each other here. We're not focused on the bigger mission of creating value and meaning. When we're focused on that mission, when we're really focused on creating value and meaning, what we start to do is seek out the particular superpowers in humans that we need to solve the problem, right? To figure out the problem, you have a great idea. I want to make spray-on fabric. I can't do that alone. Okay, I got to find an engineer. I got to find people to back me. There's a whole collection of people that had to be brought to bear with particular talents to solve that problem. The idea alone isn't enough. For my father's generation, and frankly for a large part of my professional upbringing, it was about bridging the gap between design and engineers. That was the fundamental gap that existed. For my father, he worked for Dreyfus Associates. Henry Dreyfus created the original human factors guidelines for the US government, but also built things like this that were purely about beauty and expression of aesthetic. It was really a marriage of a technical mindset, a quantitative mindset, and a qualitative mindset. For me growing up, it was really about doing that with software engineers instead of mechanical engineers. Either way, when you bring those two people together, what you're able to do is make an argument, a compelling argument for the opportunity for innovation, right? And that argument starts for that group of people by making the thing, right? And I love the example of Twitter, because if I'd come to you and said, hey, I got a great idea, 2006, I'm going to change the world of publishing, and I would love for you to give me $20 million in startup venture capital. Here's the deal. It's going to be a web page. It's going to have a text box in it. And you're going to go there every day, several times a day, type in like 140 characters or less, whatever the hell you're doing right now, and people are going to follow you, and it's going to change the world. Can I have 20 million, please? Like, no one would have bet on that. No one in their right mind would have given you the money. What they did is a couple of designers and engineers got together and built it, brought it to a very influential conference, South by Southwest, and handed it out to several thousand influential people and said, here, play with this. And in doing so, allowed people to discover meaning and value on their own through the artifact. Okay? My father's generation, plastics. That's how you made things. It was about making the physical object. My generation was about bridging in digital. It was about giving things behaviors, right? The next generation isn't just about making these two things. It's trying to make meaning out of the data that the two previous things now produce. This is going to require a fundamental shift in who's at the table to partner with us to solve the problem of design. And I'll embody this in a more grounded example. My father designed this truck for Freightliner when he was working for Dreyfus in the mid-'80s. At that time, the fundamental design challenge was to use aluminum, lighter weight material, and to make it aerodynamic so that it could have lower fuel costs, because we were coming out of the fuel crunch. Nowadays, when you talk about designing a truck, it's not a singularity, it's an ecosystem. It's a connected thing. It can self-report its own carbon footprint. It monitors the driver. It monitors and knows every single object in the back of it. It knows where it is on the planet Earth. It helps get you there. It's a completely connected ecosystem. And if you really want to play out the challenge around this for a designer to take on this problem, well, you're looking at a satellite. What are the different companies involved here? Freightliner isn't making satellites. Right? But yet they're fundamentally faced with designing products that live in this huge ecosystem now to be successful. And that ecosystem produces a vast quantity of data. And it's the connected nature of it, right? By 2020, the estimate is there will be 50 billion connections going on daily, okay? 50 billion. Only 10 of those will be produced by humans. Connected objects will produce the other 40 billion. Everything around you can start talking. It has its own intelligence. It's connected, okay? That's a problem for designers. I'll tell you what, I didn't go to school to learn math. I suck at math. If I had been good at math, I would have been an architect. I'm terrible at math. It's one of the reasons I didn't go that direction. And designers generally deal with data that lives on a Post-it note. That's sort of the scale of data that I know how to deal with, okay? That's the scale of data that's coming our way right now. We're not good at that. We're fundamentally bad at that. So this is going to require a new discipline to come to the table and take a very active role in the design process of the products we want to bring to market in the future. And that role, I think, is a big data scientist. And who is this, right? It's statisticians, it's economists, it's mathematicians. It's people who understand how to take very large quantities of data and do modeling with that. And that modeling serves several purposes, right? It's historical. It allows us to assess what we've done. It's real time. It allows both businesses and consumers to make sense of what they're doing in their world so they can make intelligent decisions. And it's predictive. It starts to allow us to forecast in interesting ways. Designers don't do that. That's not a task I know how to do. You people in this room are the experts at this, but you're not part of the design process. You're not thought of that way. We don't historically think about and even inviting you to the table that way. You certainly don't, I don't think about engaging in the act of doing product design. Yet, without people like you, we're fundamentally set up to fail because we have no capacity to deal with the wave of data and the opportunities that data opens up for us. Because fundamentally, in my father's time, it was about creating value and meaning at a product that was static the day it shipped. That truck, its value and its meaning was the same value and meaning it had on the first day it rolled off the assembly line till the day it was decomposed and thrown away. Nowadays, you buy a product and service, it must live on a time continuum. And the expectation you have is that that thing grows and it learns and it understands you and it becomes smarter over time. And the ability to leverage that data and help us make the products actually deliver on this promise, and frankly, the expectation of people in the world, is the fundamental challenge we face in the engineering and innovation world on a go-forward basis. So I hope you see that as an opportunity. Come and engage. There are many companies out there. We're not alone, so this is not a frog advertisement. This is an industry advertisement. It's please come be a part of the conversation for innovation and design. Thank you.